Hey, I've been thinking for a while about whether I should make this video. The Lindsay Clancy trial is incredibly difficult to watch and talk about. What happened is heartbreaking, and I want to be very careful with what I say. I wasn't there, I don't have all the information, and I'm not a professional who can determine exactly what happened, why it happened, or who is responsible. So that is not what this video is about. What I want to talk about is something that has really affected me personally while following this case. What happens when someone asks for help but doesn't feel heard by the system? Because that is something I recognize for myself. I've heard parts of Lindsay's story described in terms of feeling dismissed, not being understood, and feeling like the people around you don't fully understand what is happening to you. And that hit me because I know how it feels to be misunderstood. I know how it feels to be gaslit. I know how it feels to feel alone. I know how it feels to not feel myself. And I also see this happening to other people. So since sharing my own experience with benzodiazepine withdrawal, I've received hundreds of messages from people describing very similar experiences. People who feel ignored, people who feel traumatized by the treatment, people who are desperately looking for someone who understands what withdrawal can actually look like. And there is still so much lack of awareness about psych-med withdrawal. People can look at you and think, I think surely you can go back to work now, or you look fine, or maybe you're just anxious, or maybe your original condition has come back. But withdrawal can affect people neurologically in ways that are incredibly disabling. And I know this from my own experience. I'm not able to do the work I used to do. I struggle with symptoms that affect my concentration, my memory, my energy, my sleep, my ability to function. And financially, that has had a huge impact on my life as well. But one of the hardest things has been having to fight to get someone to actually acknowledge what I'm experiencing. Even now, I'm still looking for a psychiatrist who understands my situation and is willing to listen to me. And that should not be something a person has to fight so hard for, don't you think so? Because sometimes recognition is the first form of help. Just having someone say to you, I believe that you are suffering, or I can see that something is wrong, or let's try to understand what is happening. That can make such a huge difference. And I know this from my own experience with psych-med. At one point, I was taking 4 different psychiatric medications, an antidepressant, 2 benzodiazepines, and an antipsychotic. And despite all of that, I was experiencing extreme panic and I felt incredibly unwell. I'm not saying this to claim that medication is bad. Medication can help people, definitely. I simply think we need to be able to have a more honest conversation about psych-med medication. About, for instance, informed consent, about withdrawal, about polypharmacy, about the risks and the benefits, and about what happens when someone says, this medication isn't working for me, or I'm experiencing symptoms that I've never had before. We need to listen, because behind every diagnosis is a person with children, a family, a person with a job, relationships, finances, a life. And when someone becomes severely unwell, the consequences can reach every single part of that life. I know for myself. That's why this case has affected me so deeply. Not because I think I know what happened, I don't. I'm simply asking a question that I think we need to keep asking. What happens when someone desperately asks for help, but the help they receive doesn't address what is actually happening to them? Because people deserve to be heard. They deserve informed consent. They deserve appropriate support. And sometimes being heard can be the beginning of recovery. So I'd really like to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think we as patients are being given enough information about psych-med, withdrawal, and the possible risks? Do you think? And have you ever experienced what it feels like to ask for help but not truly feel heard? Let me know in the comments. So, and if this video resonated with you, please consider subscribing. I'll be sharing more about benzodiazepine withdrawal, recovery, PsychMed, and the research behind it. Thank you, and I'll see you for the next video. Bye.